The Quran and Hadiths mention rivers of paradise in heaven and not on earth. Why is this?
In his Quran, Muhammad promises his followers bounties on earth and in heaven. The earthly rewards are the product of raids, conquest, occupation, slavery, rape, and plunder. In heaven, there will be unlimited pleasures, both sexual and sensual. In 30 surahs of the Quran, many of these rewards are mentioned. Muhammad was evidently, deliberately, and with aforethought, deceiving and lying to his gullible, unlearned, and superstitious followers when repeatedly describing a paradise that he never visited, as well as arrogating to himself the otherwise divine right of who should or should not be consigned to paradise or to hell. Muhammad's appetite for lust and for plunder was insatiable both physically and intellectually. He was the consummate master at plagiarizing every single precept, concept, thought, or idea of judicial, moral, or historical value from the Bible, then perverting and contorting them to fit the mentality of his fellow Arabians. Al-Ra'd 13.35, the parable of the garden which the righteous are promised. Beneath it flows rivers, perpetual is the enjoyment thereof, and the shade therein. Such is the end of the righteous, and the end of the unbelievers is the fire. Al-Zummar 39.20, but it is for those who fear their Lord that lofty mansions one above another have been built. Beneath them flow rivers of delight, such is the promise of Allah. Never doth Allah fail in His promise. Muhammad 47.15, here is a parable of the garden which the righteous are promised. In it are rivers of water incorruptible, rivers of milk of which the taste never changes, rivers of wine, a joy to those who drink, and rivers of honey, pure and clear. In it there are for them all kinds of fruits and grace from their Lord. Can those in such bliss be compared to such as shall dwell forever in the fire and be given to drink boiling water so that it cuts up their bowels to pieces? Our listeners, so-called believers and unbelievers, while Muhammad's Quran prohibits its followers from every imaginable source of pleasure or joy in this life, it promises them the same and more after death. The same wine, khamr, that Muhammad forbade his followers from imbibing on earth, they would have unlimited amounts of it in the afterlife. It should not be much of a surprise then when his fundamentalist, gullible, and indoctrinated believers would blow themselves up, slaughtering innocent so-called unbelievers so that they would attain this eternal bliss. As usual, Muhammad copied but changed the characters of the 4 biblical rivers of paradise, Genesis 2:10-14, to suit his audience. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 5.227, narrated by Abbas bin Malik. So, when I went over to the 7th heaven, behold, there ran 4 rivers. 2 were hidden and 2 were visible. I asked, what are these 2 kinds of rivers, O Gabriel? He replied, as for the hidden rivers, they are 2 rivers in paradise, and the visible rivers are the Nile and the Euphrates. Sahih Muslim Hadith 6807, narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's Apostle said, Sayhan, Jayhan, Euphrates, and Nile are among the rivers of paradise. Now, let us listen to the one and only original version in the Bible. Genesis 2.11. The name of the first river is Pishon, the one that encircles the whole land of Havilah, where the gold is. The name of the second river is Gihon, the one that encircles the whole land of Cush. The name of the third river is Hiddekel, the one that flows towards the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. This particular hadith is a perverted version of the Bible's Genesis, since the pagan Arabs had no knowledge or concept of the biblical stories or of paradise. Moreover, our listeners should be aware that in Bukhari's version there is no mention of the first 2 rivers, and that in both versions Muhammad asserted that the Nile was one of the rivers, which obviously it was not. So much for the veracities of Muhammad and his Quran. Al-Tirmidhi Hadith 5650, narrated by Hakim ibn Muawiyah. Allah's Messenger said, in paradise there are a great river of water, a great river of honey, a great river of milk, and a great river of wine. Then the smaller river will be divided off. Sunan Abu Dawood 2514, narrated by Abdullah ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, when your brethren were smitten at the battle of Uhud, Allah put their spirits in the crops of green birds which go down to the rivers of paradise, eat its fruit and nestle in lamps of gold in the shade of the throne. Then, when they experience the sweetness of their food, drink and rest, they asked, who will tell our brethren about us that we are alive in paradise, provided with provision, in order that they might not be disinterested in jihad and recoil in war? Allah the Most High said, I shall tell them about you. So Allah sent down, and do not consider those who have been killed in Allah's path till the end of the verse. It is beyond logic, reason, and intellect that the modern followers of Muhammad would accept such lies and deceptions as divine revelations or inspirations, especially since neither Gabriel nor Allah ever told Muhammad about the above. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 9.519, narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, if you ask Allah for anything, ask Him for the Firdaus, for it is the last part of paradise and the highest part of paradise. And at its top there is a throne of beneficence, and from it gush forth the rivers of paradise. Muhammad had to invent a paradise that was full of pleasures, greenery, rivers of water, fruit and food in incredible varieties and quantities, so that it would entice his believing and gullible followers away from their otherwise difficult, arid, very hot and unforgiving climate and surroundings. Muhammad's deception has been so complete that hundreds of millions of his followers actually fell for and continue to believe in a physical paradise full of sexual and carnal pleasures and utterly devoid of any spirituality.